Dr. Olga, thank you so much for being here again.
It's so nice to be here with you, and thank you so much for inviting me to your podcast.
Well, I will link in the show notes at wellnessmama.fm to our previous episodes. We've gotten to do several together, and I've gotten to work with you personally as well, which I'm very grateful for. Today, we're going to deep dive into the link between unconscious programs that we may not even be aware of and our sleep, because I know sleep is a massive issue for many people, especially for moms, and we have many moms listening to us today. Before we jump into that, though, I have a note from your bio that you are a statistical anomaly in multiple things. So you are an identical twin, and you and your sister were born on February 29th, which is a leap year, which means I would guess you are not very many years old. But can you talk about that? That's such a fascinating thing to have both of those things.
Thank you. I feel that my birthday is very special once in 4 years. Uh, and my twin sister is a medical doctor too. She's an immunologist. Uh, and we are so close. I believe even we have a telepathic ability because we live so far away, but we can feel each other even in such a long distance.
That's so fascinating. I have two identical twins on the track team that I help coach, and it is almost like they can communicate telepathically. They're able to help each other even in track. It's like their bodies are so similar and their minds are linked up that they have such a unique way of communicating. But that's so cool and so neat for you. Okay, so in this episode, I feel like there's 1,000 topics I could learn from you on, but the commonality that they all have lies in what you've discovered on unconscious programs and how that can truly impact essentially every area of life. And I know in this episode, we're going to go deep on especially the link to sleep, which is huge because statistically, sleep problems are sort of at an all-time high. Our modern lifestyle is not great for sleep to begin with. We have a lot of factors competing for our time and attention. And those are all things we can handle with variables on the physical level and by adjusting our sleep environment, making sure we're nourishing ourselves. Of course, all of those things are important, but there are going to be people who do try to address all of those things and still struggle with sleep. And I feel like that's where work like yours comes in, because as we built on in our other episodes, you're addressing things that people may not even be consciously aware of, but that can be really drastically impacting their lives. So I would love to jump into this in a broad way and talk about what are some of the common patterns that you see that people have in their lives when they're experiencing sleep issues.
What I noticed, there are common patterns my clients experience when they had insomnia. I will be talking mainly about insomnia because there are other sleep disorders, for example, apnea, narcolepsy. Even I help some people with apnea to significantly improve. And what I observed working with my clients, that they had rumination, kind of going round in their mind when they were trying to fall asleep, kind of reliving certain moments of their lives or what they did during the day. Also, they have mental restlessness, and rumination can be a part of that, and it can be much more. It's when people have mental restlessness, it's very hard to calm their mind. It's a lot of going on in their mind, and there can be multiple thoughts and kind of inability to wind down. Also, people experience physical restlessness. And by physical restlessness, I mean it's kind of a build up energy that does not allow people to feel more relaxed in their body. And some people even experience movements that can even lead to restless leg syndrome or restless arm syndrome. And they feel uncomfortable either in their legs or arms, and they toss and turn. And also, people are sensitive to sounds, sensitivity to sounds, and they have also sensitivity to lights. And that's why any kind of sounds around might not allow them to fall asleep. And even light, for some people, even they need to wear a mask, because even a little light will make them feel uncomfortable. Also, one of the patterns, people have a sense, kind of difficulty to relax. And sleep is about relaxation. And it can manifest itself even in a sense that people did not accomplish enough for that day, and a need to do more. And I have a very interesting example for sensitivity to sounds. I had a child client, and he was 11 years old, and he had fear of darkness and insomnia issues, very hard to fall asleep and stay asleep. And when I asked him what he's experiencing, that it's hard for him to fall asleep, he told sounds. And I asked him what kind of sounds, and he told the branches of the tree outside kind of brushing against the window, and the sound of crickets. And when I asked him, what do the sounds remind you? And interestingly enough, he said bullets. And I talked to his mother, and she gave me a very interesting information that her husband and father of this boy, he used to be a Navy SEAL. And when I worked with this boy, a lot of information came that it was related to genetic trauma his father experienced, and it passed to him as epigenetic, transgenerational epigenetic inheritance, as a reaction to sounds that triggered certain symptoms like anxiety and fear.
Yeah, that's so fascinating. That definitely amazed me in my work with you, the things that came up, some stuff from when I was very small in this life, and then also stuff that likely happened in to my parents or grandparents or even before that. And even getting to talk to my mom after and hear that some of those things that came up with us were actually things that happened, for instance, in her life or to her mom. So I feel like that is such an interesting thing that I would never have thought to or even known to address before understanding the work that you're doing, because it's not something, like I've said in the other episode, that we can logically connect because we didn't directly have that experience, but we have memory of it genetically and in our cells. It's interesting too, you talked about like rumination and light and sound, especially in the environment. And I'm a big fan of, doing things we can do to optimize our sleep environment on a physical level. I think those can be beneficial even if we don't have sleep disturbances. But what you're talking about is addressing that sort of like deeper level that we maybe can't address in just addressing our physical environment or our nutrition or our breathing or things that we can effort in. This is from an inside out versus an outside in approach. And I know from working with you, another thing that you talk about is that this resolves it permanently. This is not something where you have to keep doing therapy every week for years to see a result, or you have to, sit with the uncomfortable feelings or do some kind of really difficult process to release. That this resolves it sort of effortlessly and permanently and can be very quickly. Can you speak to, like, I know it can take a couple of sessions, but how quickly things can resolve when we address these unconscious programming?
Yes, actually, it depends on the issue. Some issues can be resolved even in 1 or 2 sessions, and some issues are multi-causal. It means more than one unconscious program caused them. And what I noticed, even working on one or two programs will create a difference, will improve this issue. And sometimes the results are instant. When the session is over, people feel instant result, and it's already a permanent change. And sometimes it takes time to integrate, from hours to up to several days. And very rare, I had some occasions when people need several weeks for certain things to integrate. For example, for eye vision, I help some people to improve their vision, even either near or far. And for far, it took like very fast. And people started to see, even one of my clients described to me a mile away in very details and very like crisp and clear. And for like reading on a computer or books, it can take sometimes weeks to integrate for your body what we do during the sessions.
Yeah, I feel like people listening might be shocked to hear that this can even impact something like vision, because I think people are often told that's sort of genetic or you're born with it or it gets worse as we get older. And I've had other podcast guests as well that explain that difference between what we call eyesight and vision, and the brain connection with vision, and how that can actually change through physical things, or as you're explaining, through addressing that inner unconscious programming, and how that can then impact our biology, and how I would guess there's elements of even how stressed the muscles around our eyes are, their ability to focus, and how that's connected to things we're sort of unconsciously holding that are impacting the way we see in a very physical way. I would also guess, just like I experienced with voice, there's probably some metaphors there as well. Like, I found it hard to have hard conversations because using my voice was hard. I would guess people maybe who experience vision trouble also have trouble with the metaphorical side of seeing things clearly, or things like that. Have you found that in your work as well?
Oh, yes, very often. And actually, people who have problems with vision, often they don't have clarity. For example, for long-term future and or short-term future, or for their life. And also what you mentioned, when people say, or it passed genetically, certain health issues, or if their parents or grandparents had vision problems. And what I believe, it is all related to unresolved trauma that happened genetically and created changes in systems, in the nervous system, and how brain translate signals from eyes or what ears receive. And that's why it's kind of mistranslation. And it could, what I believe, it can be passed in DNA, and some people experience it. And that's why working on the unconscious programs that are formed as a result of trauma, genetic or womb and or early childhood, can improve or resolve this issue.
So it seems like the unresolved issues are a big piece of this. Are there any other things you found from working with clients that people can do specifically to address the sleep side?
Yes, first of all, the results will be permanent and fast, like we talked before, when you address whatever is the root cause, unresolved trauma, and work on the unconscious programs that were formed as a result of that. And also, there are other things what you can do, certain techniques and certain things. Actually, on my website, on the resources page, I have audios. One of them, it's specifically for sleep. And there are a lot of modalities I use to create this audio, and when people listen to it, it's easier for them to fall asleep, and if they wake up at night, it's easier to fall back to sleep. Also, there are some powerful techniques what people can use when they have problems to fall asleep, for example, at night. And as an example, it is depend what people experience. If people have rumination, like their mind going round, there is a very powerful visualization they can do. Uh, what you can do, it's get a sense what's going on in your mind. And imagine if this, whatever creates rumination, if there is a spin, to what direction it would be spinning in your mind. And after you identify it, imagine that you change the spin, it will spin opposite direction slowly. And you can imagine for a while this technique. And in this case, my clients reported that that rumination significantly decreased, or some people even didn't experience it. There is another technique I can share. I created, it calls instant sleep technique. And to do this technique, you can do it before bedtime when you're already lying down in bed. Just make yourself comfortable. Be sure your legs and arms are not crossed. And after, please say to yourself, you can do it in silent or loud, my intention is to be peaceful and sleepy. And the next step, please put your hands under your collarbones and press them and start massaging like more deeply in circular motion. And after that, the next step is start breathing more deeply and slowly, and still doing that deep pressure massage for these acupressure points. And after that, imagine if it was a color that would represent being peaceful and sleepy, for example, blue or green or lavender. Imagine this color is surrounding you, and imagine breathing this color. And when you exhale, imagine this energy in this color going from the top of your head down to the bottom of your feet and relaxing everything down. And you can repeat all of this steps.
And I'll make sure I put links to your resources page and also to your website where people can find you. Are there things people can do on their own ahead of time or in general in their life that can help address some of these things as well, and or before working with you to sort of become more ready for that work?
Yes, and if you would like, I can send to you that technique you can share too, because it's not on my website.
That would be great. And I know much of this centers on obviously working with you and resolving the unconscious patterns. Are there any things we can do on our own, kind of like as a daily practice or in a preparatory way to start to become ready for that internally or mentally ahead of time?
And you mean for improving sleep, right?
Yes, for improving sleep, or if someone was going to work with you for any kind of unconscious program to like become ready for that work.
To get ready for this work. Actually, people do not need to do anything to get ready for this work, because all the information will come during the session, and it will come from your drawing. And also, I observe how people look, their face and possibly whatever creates, for example, constriction or spasm in muscles, and also how people breathe, the sound of their voice, and I will get more information other than from the drawing. And what people can do, maybe just bring awareness. What do they experience having this issue? Like what kind of patterns and how do they experience this issue? Where, when, and with whom do they experience this issue? And how they experience it again. And I would like to add, I had a very interesting experience about sleep. One of patterns, for some people, they were sensitive to sounds, and for some people, on the contrary, when it was too quiet, it created anxiety for them. And what came during the sessions for this pattern, it's often something happened genetically with their ancestors. It was kind of a metaphor, calm before the storm. And it was something about, for example, ancestors experience peaceful, calm experience often during nighttime, and suddenly they were attacked because of the war or some kind of invasion. And it created imprints that it's not safe if it's peaceful and calm, something bad is coming. Isn't it interesting, Katie?
That is very interesting. Yeah. And I've heard of that with people who, for instance, always want to have the TV on when they're sleeping, or they want to have something, some kind of noise machine or something.
Yes, it's, I believe, for this reason.
That makes sense. And I would guess there might be people wondering how they can work with you and start addressing their own unconscious programs. So I'll put links in the show notes, of course, but where can people find you and work with you?
They can look at my website, drolga.com. It is just an abbreviation, dr, my first name, .com. And there are some videos, people can understand how this methodology works. I did some podcasts and also webinars with my clients. And my clients shared what they experience and how fast it works.
Amazing. Well, I will, like I said, put all of those links in the show notes, as well as to your social links and the resources that you have available. I know that this is very much heart-centered work for you, and that you have such a passion and a purpose for helping people. And I appreciate you spending even more time with us in this episode and in our past episodes together and sharing your work. And I'm deeply grateful for the work we got to do personally as well. So Dr. Olga, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Katie.
And thank you, as always, for listening and sharing your most valuable resources, your time, your energy, and your attention with us today. We're both so grateful that you did, and I hope that you will join me again on the next episode of the Wellness Mama podcast.